Everyone hear me now? If you can hear me, just leave a message on the chat box. Let me know you can hear me. Okay, we are about to begin. Can everybody hear me now? Can you hear me? Just leave a message on the chat box if you can hear me. Okay, great. The session is about to begin in few minutes. Okay, great, great, great. It's good you can hear me. Okay, so today's session we'll be looking at the FP20 Data Analytics Challenge for the month of July. So I'll just navigate to my browser to open that. Okay, so this is where you're going to find the details, the entire details for the challenge. Actually, you're going to find the entire details for the challenge here. That's the FP20 Data Analytics Challenge for the month of July. And today I'm just going to be walking you through one of the solutions I created, right? Like I've always said, when you're giving a data challenge or you're giving a data set, there are always a lot of ways you can actually approach that challenge. There are a lot of ways you can actually approach that challenge, and you can actually come from different direction. It necessarily doesn't mean um, when a particular person, since think about it this way, we're giving data analysts, different data analysts, this same data set, we're always going to see it from different perspective, different story will be told using the same data set. We are definitely not going to tell the same story. So I'm trying to open up the website, the browser, where I can easily just download the data set. But here are a few things I have done actually. For this FP20 Data Analytics Challenge, I downloaded the data set, but I'm actually not using, I'm using the data set, but I've made some variations to the data set. So if you check the link I dropped on the chat box, you actually find out that if you check on the Google Drive, you find the link to a data set there. You find the link to the data set there. Okay, you said I'm not audible. Let me try to increase the volume. Please let me know if it's better now. Can you hear me better now? Much more better now. Please let me know if you can hear me better now. Can you hear me? Is it more loud? Is it audible? Can you hear me much clearer now? Okay, just give me a minute. Let me work on the audio. Please let me know if you can hear me. Is it clear? So you can hear me much more better now. So we can continue, right? Okay, great. So, like I said, we for the data set for this challenge, I don't know why I can open this website right now. So for the data set for this challenge, I've made some alterations to the data set, right? One thing you always hear them say, they always give you this opportunity to alter the data set in a way, right? You can add some rows to the data, you can add some columns to the data that weren't there before now. So, like I said, I've actually shared this. There is a link to a OneDrive where you find the entire data set. The one I'm going to be using for um, this session. You find it on the OneDrive. So let me quickly just open it up so you actually see it. Find it in my files, Excel files. Then that's the IT support data set, right? So great. So you're going to find out that I actually added some columns to the data set, to the original data set. I added some columns to the original data set. And one of the columns I added was actually the column for the agent. I added the column also for rating. I added the column for department, right? I added the column for department. Then I added the column for the agent URL. That's the image of the agent. Those are the few columns I added to the data set. So I added the agent, the department, the rating. Those are the few columns I added to the data myself. So these columns were not originally in the data, right? I had to add them myself. So just in case you download from the website and you discover that you don't have these columns right in your own report. So let's quickly jump into it, right? So this is the report we're trying to recreate here. This is what we want to create here. I'm just going to walk you through everything I did to arrive at this very point. This is just the first page of the report. Like I said, you are always permitted to explore. You're always permitted to go deeper, right? But analysis, like I said, should always be focused. So let me just open a new page. I'm going to open a blank report. Okay, let's give it a little while to open up. So I have a blank report in front of me. We are then going to proceed to perform the ETL process. Let's just bring this data into Power BI. Remember, there's a link to the OneDrive attached to the video, is on the chart. You can actually download the data from there. Since it's an Excel data, I'll simply just come to import data from Excel, and I'll navigate to where I have the data set. I'll just navigate to where I have the data set, right? Okay, I should have it here. That's the IT support data. I'll click on open. Okay, so there's also a dimension I created myself. That's the country dimension. Yes, you actually find the country on the data itself. You find the country, the latitude and the longitude, but I created a country dimension where I just have the country and the flag. So now I'll just select the country. I'll also select the data itself. Then the data dictionary, if you need it, you can actually select it. If you don't, you can actually just let go of it. So I'll leave it for now. I'll just click on transform data. Okay, so I have my data here. I'll just refresh. So this is actually the data set. You can actually see we have about 24 columns, right? That includes the column I actually added. Remember, I told you I added the agent URL, the department, the rating, and the agent, right? These were columns I added myself. I added these columns myself. Like I said, you can always play around with the data. When they give you a data set to work with, you can always play around with the data. You are always permitted to add some few columns to the data, add some other layers of category to the data. So the next thing I'll quickly do, I'll just rename this to be fact, let's say IT supports. That's just the name of my table, right? That's the name I actually want to call my table. Then if you come to the country dimension, you actually just find just the country and the URL. That's the flag URL actually. So quickly, I would just come to transform, use first row as headers, so I can actually have the country, then just the URL. Now, I know someone is going to ask me a lot of questions about creating a dimension table. Since we have country as a dimension, that means we simply can actually move the latitude and the longitude to that section, that table, which is this dimension table called country. Yes, we can actually do that. But for this analysis, I'm actually not focused on creating an effective data model in the real sense, because it's a small data set. It's just few months, right? Few months. Then also we also have a lot of dimension in the data. And if you really, really want to start creating lots of what is it called? Lots of dimension table, you can actually do that. But we're just trying to keep it simple. Ideally, since we have the country dimension, right? Let me just say this is the country dimension. We ought to have the latitude and longitude here. We should have it here, and it makes a lot of sense for us to have the longitude and the latitude here. But like I said, we don't have these URL images in the original data set. I created it myself, right? I downloaded the icons, then used what is it called, base 54 to transform the icons to get a URL link and bring them to Power BI. So we can actually do that if you want to. So for now, let's just keep it simple. We have the ticket ID, the date, then we also have the resolution date. One thing I've also done, I've also altered this data in a way that makes a lot of sense. So you should find it different compared to the original data set. I've said that before now. So we really don't have a lot of data cleaning to do, right? For some persons, yeah, they would probably do a lot of data cleaning, but we don't have a lot of data cleaning to do here. So I'll simply just come to home, click on close, close and apply. Now this is the part that is going to be really interesting. So you have a lot of category on this data, right? You have a lot of category on the data. Your analysis can actually come from a different point of view. Different point of view. Amazingly, if this data has been given to a lot of data analysts. We're all going to approach it from different dimensions, different angles. But my focus, right? One thing I've always done when it comes to data challenges, if I get a data set in a particular domain, I go ahead to read about that domain, right? I try to read about that domain. I try to look at the KPIs that we're trying to track. You tend to track, people tend to track in that kind of domain. So your analysis can be focused in one aspect. Remember, you mustn't show everything. Don't try to solve the entire problem. Your analysis can be focused on solving just a part of the entire problem, just a section. My analysis was focused on now, since we are trying to resolve issues with tickets, my analysis is then focused on um, how do I resolve SLA, service level agreement. So how effective is the service level agreement right now? Are we within our service level agreement? Because if you work in customer service, IT support, there's always this SLA when you create a ticket and you are expected. So think about it in the bank when you raise a ticket for a complaint, there's always a timing for that complaint to be resolved within the bank. That's the SLA for the bank is okay, there are certain complaints we want you to be resolved within a day, less than a day. So they always tend to check how effective they respond to their customers using that. Then they also tend to track their agents, the customer service personnel is actually carrying out these tasks, how effective they are. So that is the angle I'm actually coming from when it comes to this data set. That is how I want to approach it. In terms of SLA, how effective are we doing? Are we within our target? Are we above our target? Are we below our target? So that's just the concept I have in mind when creating this report. Okay, so Um, the next thing I'll quickly do is come to my model view, right? Okay, so there's already a connection between my fact IT support and my country dimension table. Okay, that's great. So one other thing I'll quickly do is to create a calendar table. Create a calendar table that would allow me perform time intelligence analysis. So I already have a code for a calendar table, and on the OneDrive, you actually find the code there. The code I'm going to use for my calendar table is actually there, so I don't need to start writing the code afresh. So I'll simply just navigate to the old report, and grab the calendar table, right? That's the yeah. So this is actually the measure for creating that calendar table. Okay, so I'll just copy this. I'll navigate back to our new report. I'll explain this shortly. So in table view, right? In table view, I'll just say I want to create a new table. Then I'll just paste the DAX code I copied. So basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a calendar table. I'm adding series of columns. So for this table, this calendar table is actually the calendar table I use often. So there are a lot of columns that we probably may not use for this data set. Of course, there are columns that we're going to use and there are columns that we, typically will not use for this data set. But this is actually my standard table. It's the table I use often whenever I want to create reports. The only thing I probably do is just to alter the min and max dates that I have here. So the min date is looking at which of the date column, am I using to create this calendar table. So if you look at what I'm referring to here, I'm saying, okay, go to my data set, which is the fact IT support data set, right? I want you to pick the date, minimum date, and I also want you to pick the maximum date. So you create my calendar table within those two dates, start and end date. Now, if you come to the IT support, right, this will create a calendar table for us now. But if you come to the IT support data set, you find out that we have the dates. The first date is actually the date the ticket was created. The second date is actually the resolution date. So now that I'm creating a calendar table, I'm creating my calendar table using this very date. I'm saying, you know what, go to the date, the minimum date on the support, that's the fact IT support, use this minimum date here, then also use the maximum date here. On the other hand, we can actually alter it to say use the minimum date here, then probably use the maximum date here, right? But what I'm doing now, I'm creating a calendar table using the min date here and the max date here. That's what I'm using to create the calendar table. And if you look at the data set, you actually find out that we have data from 2021, January 2021, 2024, sorry, January 2024, 1st January 2024, down to May 2025. So we have data set for January 2024 down to May 2025. So let's go back to our calendar table that we've just created now. So this is our calendar table that we've just created using this measure. Like I said, um, the link, the OneDrive, you actually find an MS Word document there. You find the code to the calendar table. You just find the code there. You'll be able to create the calendar table. Just make some alterations. It depends on what you call your table, what you call this very table. For me, I'm calling it fact IT support. So it depends on what you call the table. That's what you're going to feed in here. That's just the thing you need to alter in the table. So that's what you're going to feed here. That's what you're going to feed here. Okay, so now let's go to our calendar table. I'll just change the first column, which is date. I'll make sure this is just date, not date and time. Once I've done that, I can then come to the model view and make a connection between this calendar and the date, which is the fact IT support the dates, and I'll make a connection to the date on my calendar table. Minutes one relationship, and I'll simply just save that. Okay, great. So we are done with the few modeling we need to do. So the next thing I want to do now is simply just create a table that's not really a table, it's just a table to hold all my measures. I'll just call this measure table. I always do this to keep all my measures in place. I want all my measures to be in one particular table, so I'll just call this measures table. Okay, great. So next, I'm going to come to Canvas setting. Canvas setting, I need a little bit more space, so custom, and I'll use the 1080, then I'll change the width to 1920, right? It's actually 1920. Great. So I'm all set. I'm prepared, right? Now, remember my focus for this challenge, for this data set. Think about it this way. This data set has been given to over 100 data analysts. We are all going to approach it from different perspectives. But for me, I've done my research. I've read about this domain, and I also discovered that when they talk about IT support, talk about ticket creation, there's always this service level agreement, SLA, associated with them, which means when a ticket is created on a particular date, on a particular time, within that organization, there's always a target time for that ticket to be resolved. And it also depends on the type of ticket. And also note that priorities are also assigned to different tickets. So now we want to simply check for these tickets that were created, did we resolve them within our service level agreement, which is our SLA, or they were within or above our SLA? That's just what I want to look at. That's the angle I want to look at, right? Like I said, there are a lot of categories in the data, so you can actually expand and look at it from a lot of different categories. But that's my focus for this analysis, so think about it that way. So for me, the next thing we want to look at, right? Let's come to our fact IT support. That's our fact IT support. So you find we have the ticket ID, right? So ideally, I want to know one of the KPIs I want to look at in this data was I want to know the total number of tickets we're talking about here, right? I want to know the total number of tickets. So I'll simply come to my measures table here, right click and say I want to create a new measure. I simply want to create a new measure and I want to just call this total tickets. That's the total tickets. So this will just be a distinct count. I think I can use a count here, but I'll just say a distinct count, right? And I'm counting all the ticket ID. Great. So I'm counting all the ticket ID. So this will simply just count all the ticket ID I have, right? So if I bring this card visual here, I can just look at all the ticket ID I have, ticket ID. So I have over 12K, so be sure color value display none. So I actually have about 11,923. Okay, so I have 11,923 tickets. So these are the tickets we're looking at, right? This is the total number of tickets we're looking at. So if you come to the data, you also find out that you have a lot of category, right? Like I said before, we have a lot of categories. So we have the body, so we have the answer, we have the type of tickets, we have the queue. Now, I created another category of my own, right, using this queue. So I created a category of my own called department using this queue, right? So you can look at the type of ticket that is being created, right? Is it change? Is it incident? Is it problem? Is it request, right? You can look at the queue you have here also. So for this queue, I created another dimension called department using this queue also. So you can look at the priority of the ticket, right? High, low, medium, right? Then you can look at the primary tag, a lot of primary tag, we have the secondary tag, then we have the category, right? We have a lot of, what is it called? Categories in this data. So for my focus is SLA. So for SLA, my interest rests on the type of ticket, right? I've already created a department out of this queue and the priority the ticket is receiving. So let's put it this way. One of the conditional columns or one of the, what is it called? Conditional columns we're going to create right now is to check if the ticket was resolved. Because if you look at our data set, you find out that this was the date the ticket was created. This was the date the ticket was resolved, which means Jenkins Data Analytics Inquiry, she created the ticket on the 31st of March 2025. She got a response on the 5th of April 2025. That was when she got a response. So the question now rests is, did we attend to these tickets within our SLA or above our SLA? So that's the question. Now, given the priority the tickets are receiving, we have a target. So my target is if a ticket priority, let me quickly bring it out. So this is my target. If a ticket priority is high, we want that ticket to be resolved. That means that ticket, the target is the ticket should be resolved within 48 hours. Resolve tickets within 48 hours. That's the target. Now, if the ticket priority is medium, we want this ticket to be resolved. We want this ticket to be resolved within 72 hours, right? We want the ticket to be resolved within 72 hours. Now, if a ticket is low priority, right, we want the ticket to be resolved within 96 hours, right? So that's our target. Let me quickly just increase this. So our target now is if a ticket priority is high, resolve these tickets. These tickets should be resolved within 48 hours. If the priority is medium, it should be resolved within 72. And if the priority is low, it should be resolved within 96 hours. So that is our service level agreement. This is what we've agreed to. So if a high priority ticket is not resolved within 48 hours, if it's resolved above 48 hours, that means we didn't comply to the SLA. That's just the implication of what we've done. Okay, so with this agreement in mind, we then need to create a conditional column, custom column, whichever one. So we're going to create it on this table right here. So I'll just say I want to create a new column. But the first thing we need to do is calculate the number of days it took for the tickets to be resolved. We don't know yet, so we need to do that. So I will just say resolve days. So this is, I'll just say days actually. So this is more like resolution days. So we can say resolution days, right? So for resolution days, we just say the dated diff. We're going to call on the dated diff function. The difference between the date, which is the fact IT support date, and also the resolution date also, which is the resolution date, right? The resolution date. Then we want to look at it, the number of days. Then we then close this and hit the enter button. So we can actually say day or we can actually say hours. So let's use hours since we're working with hours here. That's hours, right? So this will give us the resolution hours, not days now. So I'll just change this to resolution hours. So resolution hours, okay. We can use days, we can actually use hours. It's entirely up to us. So this is the resolution hours in terms of hours. But if we're going to use day, all we need to do is change this hour to day, right? So you can actually see we have days here. So let's work with hours, right? So resolution hours. So hours it took for the ticket to be resolved. So now that we have the resolution hours, we can then create another conditional column that looks at if the ticket was resolved within the target hours or below, either within or below or above the target hours. So which is our SLA compliance. For that, we'll simply just use if statement or switch statement. So I've already written that. I'll quickly just navigate there and copy the code for this session to be fast. So, okay. Okay, so resolve hours. So I have it here. So this is priority SLA, right? So I'll just copy this code down. I'll explain this shortly, what we're doing with that line of code we just copied. So on this table, I'll say I want to add a new column again. So this column is actually looking at my SLA, right? My SLA. So the first thing we're doing right here is simply writing a switch statement to say if the ticket priority is equal to high, remember for high, we said it should be resolved, right? If it's resolved, and if it's above 48 hours, it simply means it's outside the SLA, right? That's the resolution hours. So this should be, it's not resolve hours because we actually use resolution here. So if the resolution hours is above 48 hours, it simply means it did not comply with our SLA, which is outside the SLA. Now, for medium, we said the target is what? 72 hours. So anything resolved above 72 hours is also outside the SLA. Now, for low, anything resolved above 96 hours, it's outside the SLA. So that's what I'm simply looking at here. If you look at 48 hours, greater than 48 hours outside SLA, greater than 72 hours outside SLA, while greater than 96 hours outside SLA. Note what we are doing. We're actually filtering to say if the priority is high and if the priority is medium and if it's low. But outside these conditions, every other one is within the SLA, which is the service level agreement. So I'll just hit my commit button. So I have a new column here with the SLA compliance. So now that I have the SLA compliance, right, I can then go ahead. Now I can actually calculate the ticket that we have within SLA and those that we have outside the SLA. We can do that now that we have that. So to do that, I'll simply just right click and say I want to create a new measure quickly. I'll just say this is within SLA. This will give me the number of tickets within SLA. So I can then use the calculate function. Say I want to calculate my total tickets, right? And I simply want to filter where the priority SLA please, where the priority SLA is equal to within SLA. I'll make a copy of this to be very fast. So this is within SLA. So to get outside SLA, I'll just create a new measure again and paste this. So this is outside SLA. So this is outside SLA. So outside SLA. So once I bring in my card visuals now, and I bring this here, this is within SLA. This is blank. Okay, we'll fix this. Let's bring outside SLA. This is also blank. So obviously there's something we're doing wrong. We need to check the spelling, right? So let's be sure priority SLA. Let's quickly go back, come back to our table and check how did we spell our service level agreement. So this is capital O outside SLA and within SLA. So this is looking rough. So let's check. Okay, outside and within capital letter. Let's be sure. Is that what I wrote here? So for outside SLA. Okay. Is that why it's showing an error? Let's be sure. Within SLA. I'm not supposed to get an error, but let me check. This is text. Okay, so there's a space here. It's not supposed to be. There's not supposed to be a space there. So I'll just type this out again. Outside SLA. There's not supposed to be a space before that. Please, there's not supposed to be a space here. So why for within SLA, there's a space before the within. Please close that gap. There's not supposed to be a space. Okay, so now you can see that out of the 11,923 tickets, 9,023 are actually within SLA, while 2,900 are actually outside the SLA. So with this concept, I can then go ahead to create my report, right? So out of these tickets that are within SLA and these that are outside SLA, in terms of priority, where are we falling short in terms of priority? Are we falling short in terms of high priority tickets? Are we falling short in terms of medium priority tickets? Or are we falling short in terms of low priority tickets? So that's how my analysis, that's how I actually wanted to focus my own analysis, right? So I already created the background for this, right? So I'll just bring it here so we can go ahead and create everything. So I'll come to format. Now I'll just come to format Canva background, browse, then desktop. I have the background here. Also, on the link to the OneDrive, right? SLA is actually service level agreement, right? It's mostly a term used by IT support and tickets people. That's IT support, customer service, and all that. They use a lot of they use SLA a lot, especially when you work in the customer service experience center. Most of them banks, their customer service experience center, they use a lot of they use the term SLA to when it comes to support, offering support and ticket resolution and all that. So this is actually the background I created, right? This is the background I created. And first, I'm looking at the total tickets, right? Then I'm looking at the high priority ticket, the low priority ticket, and the medium priority ticket and the low priority ticket. So let's quickly take a look at what I have on this other end. So you can actually see what I have here. I have the total ticket. This is actually filtered by a particular month. So I have the within percent, that's the within SLA, then of course the target, then you can actually see the SLA performance, which is the SLA performance here, right down here, right? So let's go ahead and create this, right? We can go ahead and actually create this. But for us to create this, you can see I have a measure here that says the outside SLA percent, right? And the within outside the within SLA percent also. So we can go ahead and create these measures so we can create our report. So the target, we weren't really given a target. I actually was the one that set the target for myself. And I said from working with SLA data, customer service data, and IT support data, I know their target is always above 70% or so. That's always their target. So we can actually use 70%, we can use 75, it depends on the organization. So let's quickly do some formatting. So for us to continue, let's just create a new measure and say within SLA percent and outside SLA percent. So this will be within percent, and this will simply be divide. We'll simply divide now within SLA by the total tickets, right? Okay, next is outside percent. Outside percent. It's supposed to be outside SLA percent actually. So I'll simply divide also again. Then this will be outside SLA by the total tickets. So this will give me the percentage that is actually outside SLA. So first we're looking at the total ticket, right? So we're looking at the total tickets. So for this, let's quickly do some formatting. Call out value, I want to change this. Let's say we're using 25, right? Then it's up to us to leave the category label here. But for the value, let's just color the value this, come to format, effects, put off the background, right? So this will be total tickets. For the category, it's up to us to actually leave the category there if we want to use that category. If we don't, probably use something up there. So let's say we're using this color and we're making this 10. So this is total tickets, right? So this is the total tickets, right? So we're looking at the tickets within SLA, right? This is ticket within SLA. I'll just select this KPI card, come to format, printer, and drop it here. So I can actually reduce the size and come to general, not general now, just within SLA, add a comma here, right? So this is within SLA. So the target, like I said, the target is actually up to us, use our own discretion. So for me, I think I use 75%. So I'll just create a new measure and call this SLA target. SLA target, and I'll say 0.75. So the target is actually 0.75, right? Which is more like 75%. So once I drop my SLA target here and select the SLA target, change this to percent, this automatically format it to percent. I can format printer and just drop it here. So I want this to be 0 decimal places. I'll quickly save this file. Click on save as, browse this on my desktop. I'll just save it as demo tickets. Okay, so I have my target here, right? 75%. Now the reason I'm adding the target there, target can actually change for different ticket type. right? They can actually say for overall ticket, target is 75, for high priority ticket, target is 95, for medium priority ticket. But remember, we're just working with assumptions here. We weren't really giving any target. So this is actually looking at the total ticket, right? You can actually see that for our total tickets, you can see the number of tickets within SLA, right? It's always good to align your visuals, right? So one thing I'll do is probably do this much more later. You can actually do this on your own too. So now that we've done this, right? Next thing we need to do is to make sure we have the right label, right? So I'll just bring a text box and this should look at total tickets. So we're using DIN, so I'll make sure it's DIN. I'll make sure it's 14, or we can actually use 16. Then I come to effects, I put off the background. I'll just select everything we have there, make sure the color is actually white 10% darker. So I'll just drop this here. So this is for the total tickets, right? So now we want to see our SLA percent, which is the level. For that, we're going to be using, let's say we're using, is it the stacked 100% bar chart, right? So let's say we're using this bar chart. So I'll just quickly drop my that's my within percent and my outside percent. So you can actually see the percentage that is actually within SLA, right? That's 75.68%. Then outside SLA is actually 24%. For us to confirm this, let's see what happens when we change this to be within SLA. So you can see it's 76, 76. Then let's change this to outside percent. You can see it's 24. So what I need to do is then format this bar chart to look exactly the way I want it. So to format the bar chart, I'll come to format. For the x-axis, I don't want the values, I don't want the title. Okay. Now for the y-axis, of course, there's no y-axis. I don't want anything. Then I come to general title, I turn it off, right? Then I come to visual, the legend, I turn it off. So this is what I'm going to get. I'll just reduce the size, right? I'll come to general effects. I'll turn off the background also. So I'll just reduce the size and bring it here. Okay. I'll resize this, make sure it's well aligned with what I have there. So I'll make it look just the way I want it, right? So come to format, come to bars, series. So we're looking at the within percent, which is actually the blue color, right? So we can actually use this blue color, see how it looks like. Then I'll go to the outside percent and I'll change the color to, let's say, gray. I'll make it a bit darker. Yeah. So I'll change the color to this gray. So it looks like a fill, right? Like the blue is actually filling out, then it stops there, right? But we need to know what percent we're looking at here. So I'll come to format, then I'll put on the data label. So when I put on the data label, I actually just want to see the within. I don't want to see the, what is it called, which is the outside SLA, right? I also want to just see the within. So we can come to data label, change this to outside, put the show series off. Then you can scroll down, change this to within, come to the details. We can change this to DIN, maybe increase it to 10, change the font color to black. So this is entirely up to you now. Okay, so we now have the, I think the text I had there is SLA, is it SLA compliance or SLA resolution, which is SLA performance. So you can actually see the SLA performance, right? So it's just to have a text up here. I didn't use the title, so I'm just going to bring in a text box to say SLA performance, SLA performance. And select, change this to DIN, change this color to this, and come to format, turn off the background color. So this is actually SLA performance. I'll just bring this up here, bring this down a bit. So this is SLA performance. Now, down here, I also then have that's the the numbers, that's the violations we have, which is actually the outside SLA, just the violations we have, right? I have the violations we have down here. So I can just make a copy of this card visual, right? And replace it with outside SLA. So this is actually the violations we have, but um, this is no longer outside SLA. I just called it violations. So these are the violations we actually have. So I can come to format, select outside SLA, just add a comma. So these are the violations we have, right? Violations. I'll save this. So for the violations, I'll reduce the size a bit. I'll just come to effects, not effects, visual, colored value, and probably just reduce the size to 12. Then for the category label, I think I'll make it 8. This doesn't look good. It doesn't look like what I had on the other side. So let me quickly cross-check that. So, okay, so I had the violations. Okay, I think this is a KPI card actually. It's a KPI card. Okay, so I have a KPI card for violations. Yeah, so violations. I have a KPI card for violations. So basically, what I did was I combined the outside SLA and I returned the keyword violations, combining the outside SLA together. So I'm just going to copy this, right? I'm going to copy this. Back to the report. So I'm going to create a new measure. Basically, that's what I did. And I'll just paste this here. So this is just combining the outside SLA that we have already. We already have a measure for that, right? Then we're using the keyword violations and we're adding the outside SLA to it so we can use the card visual. So that means we don't need this. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll just change this to violations. So we have something like this. Then I'll go ahead and turn off the category label so you can see we have violations. Okay, so we are almost done with the KPI card, just the way we want it. Now, I have a keyword here, right? A keyword that states if we are meeting targets or we are below target and all that, which is the SLA status, right? So if you see the SLA status, it's just using what we've said before, right? If we have the SLA value, right, which is the within percent, we have the target, which is our SLA target, we have a threshold, which is our SLA target if it's 10% within the target. So this is just more like creating an SLA status, right? For us, we are meeting our targets, we are close to our targets, we are below our targets. So let me copy this quickly and just interpret to you how this works, right? So if I come to a new measure, measure table, and say I want to create a new measure, I'll simply just paste this here. So what am I doing? We're looking at our within percent, right? Which is our within SLA percent, right? We're saying, what is our SLA value? This is our SLA value, is within percent, right? What is our SLA target? We already have a target, 75%, right? Then we have a threshold, which is our target if it's 10% close to our target in the recent. So what we're simply saying here, if the value is greater than the target, right, or equal to the target, we're meeting the target, right? You agree with me on that. But if the value, which is the SLA within status, if it's greater than or equal to the target minus the threshold, we are close to the target. We are 10% close to the target. So for example, if you have a value of 70%, instead of saying below, we are going to get the word close to, because we're actually close to the target. But if the value is less than the target minus the threshold also, that means we are below the target. That's the implication of what we've done. This is just the text we want it to return. And the text is either we're meeting our target, we're close to our target, or we're below our target. Remember, we're using the SLA compliance, which is the within percent. What percentage, by what percentage compared to our target. So this is our SLA status. And for our SLA status, we just need to bring a card visual once more and just bring in the SLA status. So what it's saying now is we're meeting our target. That's because our SLA percent is actually 75.68%. So we're actually, which is 76%, we're actually is above the our target 75. So which means we're meeting our target. So I would select and just quickly format this. I'll use this. I'll say format painter. Just drop it here. So meeting target. So that's the keyword we're returning, meeting target. So with this, we're done with the KPI card, right? So let's quickly check out something. So if I bring in a slicer, right, just to say, and I bring in the calendar and I bring in a month, right? This is actually the month. So quickly, I'll go back to the calendar. Then I want to quickly sort. I have the short month here. Then I'll sort this column using the month number. I also have the month name. I actually have two shorts on this table. So month name, I also sort. Then I have the month and year combined together, right? I have the month year sort also. So I'll sort it using the month year sort. Okay. Now go back to my visual. I'll just remove this and bring the month year, which is the month year, right? So let's see January. This is January. You can see January, we had 735 tickets, 556 were within SLA. Of course, our target is still 75%, right? Let's look at February. Now look at March, look at April, May, June, July. So now you see for July, we actually had 73%, which is more like 75%. So we were close to target, close to target. We didn't meet our target, but we not like we're so below the target. We were close to the target. So that's the word we're using here, close to the target. Then of course for August, meeting target and all that. So that's the concept behind what we've done, right? So everything we've done here is just now us filtering everything to the different ticket category, the different ticket category. So to quickly do that, I'll just highlight everything here. I'll just say Control C, Control V. I'll just bring everything down here, right? I'll bring everything down here. So this would be high priority tickets, high priority tickets, right? This is high priority tickets. So I'll just filter everything here to high priority tickets, right? So I'll select the total tickets. I'll just come to fact support, bring the ticket priority and filter to high. I'll do the same thing for within ticket priority. I'll filter to high. I'll lock it in. Bring this. I'll lock it in. Then for this visual, I'll also bring the ticket priority. I'll filter to high. I'll lock it. Remember, for the meeting target, I also need to do the same thing. I'll just bring the ticket priority. I'll fix it to high. I'll lock it in. Then violations, I'll bring the ticket priority once more. Fix it to high. I'll lock it. So now I'm looking at high priority tickets, right? So let me check for this visual. I have to filter to high and lock it in. So you can actually see that for high priority tickets, our SLA performance is actually 98%. So what I'll do is I'll go back, come to detailed label within values. That's the detail. I'll actually change this to white. Let's change this to white. So you can actually see we have 98%, right? 98%, which is 98.3%. We're actually doing well in terms of high priority tickets. So just like we did filter everything to high priority tickets, we have to do the same thing for what is it called, medium priority tickets. So I'll just copy everything I have here. Again, Control C, Control V. I'll bring it down here. This will be looking at medium priority tickets. So this is medium priority tickets. Medium priority tickets. So medium priority tickets. So it's just to go back to my filter and change this from high to medium. Change this from high to medium. Change this from high to medium. Please don't select the two. Make sure one is selected. Meeting targets. This should be from high to medium. Then this would be from high to also medium. Okay. Then for the chart also, which is the visual, it will be from high to also medium. So you can see we are actually below target when it comes to medium priority tickets. Look at our SLA performance, 56%. We're actually below target in terms of medium priority tickets. So finally, I'm just going to make one last copy for low priority tickets, which is what we have, the final one. So I'm just going to bring it down here. So this would be low priority tickets. Low priority tickets. So this is low priority tickets. So also the same thing, we just need to filter. So this is no longer high. This is looking at low. This is also looking at low. This is looking at low. Why? Of course, are we meeting targets? We are looking at low. Violations, we're also looking at low. So in terms of low priority tickets, we were close to the targets because the target, we actually have 73% against 75% target. So you can easily see we were close to the target in terms of low priority tickets. So overall, SLA, we are actually meeting targets, but in terms of high priority, we are meeting targets. In terms of medium priority, we are below target, and in terms of low priority tickets, we are actually close to the target. So with this, you can actually see how you're performing in terms of SLA, right? You can easily see this and make decisions. You can see this and make decisions immediately. So what we're going to look at now is also the trend, right? On a monthly basis, have we been meeting our SLA target? On a monthly basis, have we been meeting our SLA target, right? So for that, I'll just bring in a line chart, which is a line visual. I'll just bring this here, right? Next, we then come to our calendar. Since we have data from a particular year, January 2024 to May 2025, I want to show the entire year, right? So I'm using this my year, which is my month year on the x-axis. So next thing I want to do is come to my measures, right? I'm bringing my within SLA percent, which is the within percent. So you can actually see the within percent. Next, I then want to add the target, right? To the secondary axis, I want to add the target. So if I come to the SLE target and drop it on the secondary axis, so I have a line that tells me this is the target, then you can actually easily spot for the month we met the target and the month we fell short, the month we were close to the target and all that. So let's quickly clean this up, right? So it looks nice. Let's clean this up. First, I'm simply going to say format, x-axis, we don't need the title. I'll change this to DIN also. Then for the y-axis, I'm simply going to say we don't need the values, we don't need the title, right? For the secondary axis, we actually don't need the values, but if you turn off the values, you're going to have no issues. So great. So next thing we need to do is clean this up. So this is actually within SLA, right? Which is within SLA. So I'm going to come to format now. Instead of just saying within, actually, I'm supposed to use the word within SLA. So this is within SLA percent. That's our legend, right? Within SLA percent. The next thing I'll do is come to format, let's start with the lines, right? For the lines, we can actually switch to the within SLA and decide if we want to have a linear or want to have a smooth line. So you can see we have a smooth line, right? And the width is actually 3. We can make the width 2. Okay, now I'll go back, change this to SLA targets. I want to reduce the width to be 1 or 2. Then instead of having a solid line, I can say it should be dash, right? I can also change the color too. So I can go back to the within SLA percent and I change the color to probably blue, right? Then come to format, general effects, I'll put off the background. So I have something like this. So for the visual x-axis, I have to change the color to the 10% darker so I can actually see everything down here. Then for my target now, which is my target line, can't be this color anymore. I probably have to use, let's say we use this color, right? So we can actually use this to represent our target. Now, for the title, I did put off the title. General, I did put off the title. So we also need to put on data label, right? So we see the values we're dealing with. So we'll come to data labels, we'll put them on, right? But expand the data label, change the series to SLA target and turn off the label. We're not putting the data label for SLA target, right? We're only putting the data label for within SLA. So within SLA, we only want to see the value. So within SLA, let's format this to percent, and this should be 0 decimal places. So we need to also change the color. So values color. We need to change this to DIN, change the color to probably 10%, right? Okay, so you can actually see now that we have a visual, we have a target, right? Then we're seeing our values, of course, when we're easily above the target, close to the target, below the target for each month, starting from January 2024 down to May 2025. You can see our SLA compliance. Now, I added some conditional formatting, right? Some conditional formatting in the sense that if we're above our target, I think it should be blue. If we're above or within our target, I think it should be blue. Then if we're below our target, I think it should be red. So that's the simple if function, right? Let me be sure of the color we used here. So here, I'm simply saying if we're above our target or below our target, we should use a particular color. Not this. We're going to come to this. So, okay, that's the SLA color. This is the color I'm actually using. Yeah, this is the color I'm using. So we already wrote a statement before now. We wrote a statement before now. So we're actually going to be using that same statement to tell. But let me be sure. I think I have just one color here. Okay. Violations. Yeah. So this is the color we're actually using. If I want to confirm that, I can come to format, select, come to as the data label, changes to within, then check the values. Okay. Conditional formatting. Okay, this is not what I'm using. Okay. All. Okay, conditional formatting. That's condition color. So I'm using a different one entirely. So I think that one only has two. Where is it? Where's the measure hiding? It's conditional color. It's just a single line of code. So the single line of code that says if we're within the SLA or above the SLA, just tell us change the color. So if we're within percent, right? If we're within percent, which is within or greater than the SLA target, just use this color, else use this color. That's basically what we're doing here, nothing else. If we're within, use this color. If we're not, use this color. That's basically what we're doing here. So next we'll select this visual, right? Come to format, then come to the data label now, within percent, come to the values, click on the conditional formatting. But I'm not going to apply it to within only. So I have to change this to all, right? Come to the values, conditional formatting. This should be based on field value. Then it should be based on the measure we just created. Measure table, which is condition color. Click on OK. Nothing happened there. So my bad. That means we need to change this to be within SLA, right? Then click on the conditional formatting, change this to field value. Of course, this should now be measure table, condition color, and click on OK. So this is what we're going to get, which is the result. So for the times we were above our targets or within our targets, you can actually see we have the values there. The values are actually blue. We're good. For the times we're below our target, you can see for July 2024, then we have for what is this, February 2025, then we have for May 2025. Now I also then have a statement up here, right? Let me just format this legend, the text, which is the text, format the color to be 10% darker, so we're good. So I have a statement up here. Let me quickly just take you to my report. I have a statement up here. Upprint is actually looking at is so I'm basically using the months, the number of months we have, right, from January 5, and I'm trying to tell you targets and the number of months within meets the target, right? That's what I'm just basically saying. Rather than have those boring titles, we just have SLA trend or SLA's performance trend. I'm now trying to give you insight by using some level of insight. So that's which is SLA achieved. This is actually the measure. It's a very simple measure through it. So come to my measure table, say new measure. So first thing first, right? Months I have, right? The total months I have for now for the total months, right? Then the months and for the failed months, right? Then of course the failed list where months SLA not achieved and all that. So for the total months, I'm going to be taking you back a lot to at least make so the total month is just the distinct count of the year month. Remember, my year month is looking at January 2024 to May 2025. So I'm counting the entire month. So this is for the total month, right? So which means the first measure you need to create is to create a measure for the total months. Right click on the measure table, create a new measure, and do a distinct count of the total months you have in your report. Right? Year month. We're counting a distinct count of the year month. This will give us a distinct count of the year month, will give us the number of months we have in the report. Next, we are looking at the achieved month, which is the month we achieved the SLA, right? Month SLA was achieved, right? So if you come back to the report, you look at month SLA was achieved, right? So for the month SLA was achieved, in order to create that, in order to get that, I'll walk you through what's going on here because it looks like we're creating a summary table, then we are picking the number of months SLA was achieved from there. So let's quickly come back here, then create a new measure, new measure. So this will look at the month SLA was achieved, right? So first we'll look at the target SLA, which is, this tells you this is our SLA target. You already have this, you have this before now. So this is a table. We're creating a very simple table here using, think about this table. This table is just going to have the month year, right? Then we're going to have the SLA percent, right? This measure you have up here is just simply creating a table and it's checking which months we met target and which months we didn't meet target. That's what we're basically doing here. So you can look at the failed months now. We're now filtering the month table where the month SLE is less than the target SLE, right? Then of course we're returning which is the number of which is the months SLE was not achieved. That's what we're returning here, months SLE not achieved. So we'll go back again and filter and return the month SLE was achieved. So we have two what is it called, two measures. So it's the same thing, but we simply just say month SLA was achieved. So if you come back here, you actually find that then I have another measure here that looks at month SLA. So I can't be writing so many measures now. So okay, right click and say you want to create a new measure now. So this will give you the month SLA was achieved. Remember, this is always within percent, not within, it's actually within SLA. I don't know why I use within percent here. So this is now looking at the month SLA was achieved. That's what this is looking at. Month SLA was achieved. So once we're out of here and this is done creating, we shouldn't have any problem on the other side, which is the SLA achievements that we had before now. So first we have the total month, right, which is the measure you saw first. We have the achieved month, the month SLA was achieved. We have the month, the failed list, right? Then we have the mean month, which is, this is just more like the month we started which is January 2024 to May 2025. So now I'm wrapping everything in a sentence. I'm wrapping everything in a sentence. Rather than just say SLA compliance or SLA's performance trend, I'm wrapping everything in a sentence to return this sentence, right? So now if I come here and select the card visual and put my SLA achievement, right? SLA achievement, you see my SLA achievement. So I'm simply saying out of the a total of 17 months. So 17 months starting from January 2024 to May 2025, 17 months, right? SLA was achieved for 14 months, falling short in 3 months, which is July 2024, February 2025, and May 2025. So let's compare. So we have July 2024 year, we have February 2025, and what? May 2025. So this will automatically be our header, which is our title. Now, the good thing about this title, if you come to colored value and probably just reduce this to 14 and general effects, put off the background, then come to visual, colored value, change the color to 10% darker, reduce the size and just drop it here. I'll put off the category label. So in terms of the title, the interesting thing is if I come and let's say I bring in a slicer and let's say I decide to bring a slicer, let's say I bring a slicer by country, right? If I select this country, it changes dynamically, right? It changes dynamically. Say out of the total 17 months, right? SLA was achieved for 10 SLA, February 24, May 24, just like that. February 24, May 24, just like that. So it changes dynamically, not like I'll just remove this. So that's basically it for the line visual and that's basically it for the line visual and the title. So next we then have the table visual. Let's quickly check that. I think we have a table visual. Yeah, so we have a table visual that just shows us the country, the URL, total tickets, 10% outside SLA, outside percent, straightforward. First, we can go to our country dimension, right, and just drop the country there. Then total tickets, right? But we then have is URL, so I'll drop the URL there. So this is what you're going to get when you're nice. So all you need to do is select the URL, come to data category and just change this to image URL. So you can actually have the country flag appear there. So you have the country flag appear there. Next, I'll quickly just come to format now, image size. I'll reduce this to 30. Let me see how 30 looks like, right? Either 30 or 25 should be fine. So let's say 25. So let's say 25 is okay. So next we have the total tickets, right? So we have the total tickets, which is our total tickets. That's what we have. Then we have the within SLA, right? Which is within SLA. Then we have the within percent. Then we have the outside SLA, the outside percent. That's basically what we have on the table visual. Okay. Then I think we have a bar chart, right? So for the bar chart, I'm just going to select the total ticket measure. I'm going to just make another copy of it, create another measure called total tickets, but this will be total tickets 2 in the real sense, since we already have a measure with total ticket existing. So I'll just hit 2. Next thing I'll do is bring the total tickets 2 and drop it immediately after total tickets. Okay, so right, so for the total tickets 2, I'm going to come to format. I'm saying cell elements. I'll change this to total tickets 2 and I'll turn on data bars, right? Then click on the conditional formatting. I'll simply just say show bars only and click on OK. Next, I'll go to specific column. So for this table, right, this table, I'll simply just come to style and presets. I'll say default, no, I'll say none. So general effects, I'll just put off the background so I have everything plain. It comes to visual grid, scroll down option by 2 or by 1. I can actually make it 2, then increase the table a bit. The font size, I think I'm okay with that. Then next I will then come to values, the text color 10% dark, alternative text 10% dark. Okay, then what else? We then need to come to the column headers, also change the colors 10% dark, change the style DIN, right? We can make this 12. Okay, then in terms of total, right, totals, we can actually just also make this DIN, make it 12, and change the text color to be 10% darker. Okay, so with this, I think we're almost done with the table. The only thing I had to do for the table was also add that condition we had here before, right? The condition we had here before now. So if I select the table, I'll simply just come to format. I'll come to specific column. I'll change this to total tickets too, right? I'll just probably apply to the header only, and I'll change the text color to something like this, and change the background color to something like this so you don't see it there. So this is supposed to get the color code here, so I don't have that color code now, but you get the idea, you get the logic. I don't want this total ticket 2 to show there. I'm supposed to get this color. Remember, you have this PowerPoint on your own end on the OneDrive also. So I'll get this color code, format, shape fill, more fill color. I'll get this color code. So exact get to change this text color to this and change this to this also. So you don't see the total ticket 2 there. So this is what I want. Then finally, we can then apply conditional formatting to this within SLA, right? We can come to, okay, so within SLA, okay. Okay. So let's simply come to cell elements and change this to within percent and put on font color, click on the conditional formatting, change this to feed value and also apply or okay, then we'll come to measure table and click on the condition color and click on OK, right? The same principle I used before now. Target the data table, SLA, number of countries that didn't meet their SLA, like that. So I'll just copy this also. So instead of just having SLA performance by country, I'm now trying to make title, dynamic headers, dynamic titles to my actually within. So it's actually within percent, so within the country, while taking the target, then we create a table, we add the country and the within percent, then we cross-check against the countries that they meet the target. So I'll also just make a copy of this, Control C, Control V, and just change this to country SLA achieved. So we have our dynamic title there already. Okay, so okay, the next visual we want to look at is the calendar visual, right? So measured monthly, right? We also can measure it. So say for the month of January, how many days did we meet SLA in terms of the month of January? On a daily basis, they want to look at if they met SLA for that day. Want to look at if they met SLA for that day, or they did not. Was SLA achieved? Or simply the goal. So for me to achieve that, I decided to try to create a calendar table in Power BI. So for that calendar table visual, of course, there are many ways to do that. I was made to understand that you can actually just go to the get more visual and get the calendar table visual from the store, right? You can get it from the store, the app store. But this here, the app store. But this here, we're going to be using a matrix calendar visual. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using a. So let me just walk you through. I'm talking about. So we're looking at the month of March. So let's go to the month of February. So we're looking at the month of February. I'm looking at the month of February actually. No, now February 2024, we actually achieved our XLA target, which is 76%. But you can days in February, you can actually see up here in February 2024, the SLA target was met on 19 out of the 28 total days. That's what I'm trying to tell you, the story I'm trying to at the visual, and you're actually seeing that out of the 29 days, which is 29, SLA was achieved for quarter. Then we have the week of the month. Then we have the month group. Then we have the day of the week, right? Note calendar quarter, the week of the month. So let's quickly create this on this other end. So first, so I'll go to my calendar. You notice that the next thing we have is the week of the month, our calendar, before we go to the month group. So week of the month, which is week of month, you drop it here, group, and just drop it on the expand all down one level in the hierarchy. So this is what I'm going to get. Okay, there's a trick to this. I want to begin. So once I have my quota for the week of the month, I won't bring that in this group. Let me see what's going to happen. Expand down. Yep, this is what we want to do. So let me just go over that again, right? Let me go over that again. Okay. When you create your matrix, right? First, bring in the quarter only, then bring in the month group on the column, right? Bring in the day of the week also on the expand all down one level in the hierarchy. So you have something like this, right? Once you have this, the next thing you then need to do, you can then bring in the what are we missing? I want to be sure, week of the month on the row. So if you click on, you expand this, you can expand this, you can expand. Don't click please. You can actually expand. So we don't have a calendar visual yet, right? But next, you just need to bring the day and drop it on the values. So we have, you bring the day, you drop it on the values. So we have our calendar visual created for us already. Now we just need to clean this up, right? We need to clean this up. So one thing I'll do, which is the next thing I'll do now, is come to format, layout and style. I'll change this to none, right? None. Then instead of compact, I'll say outline. So I have something like this, right? Okay, so let's quickly clean this up. The reason you are having 01, 02, 01, 02 is because we have data for 2 years. Remember, 2024 and 2025. So we need to follow that shortly. So once we have this settled, let's quickly do some formatting. I'll insert blank rows, right? So I have some space, right? Then what do I want to do next? First, I'll come to column headers. Okay, I'll just change this to DIN, right? Then what else? Come to column subtotal, right? I'll just mark this column subtotal to be a dot instead of having total be a dot. Then the values, I'll change the text color to the background color. I'll also change the background color. See it, it's fine. Next, come to general now. If you come to effects and put off the background, so you're definitely going to have something weird like this. So let me put on the background. When we're done, we can actually remove it. So this is what we're going to have, right? Next, let's come to select this. Let's just clean this up again. We need to clean this up. We need to clean it up. Row total. If we turn off the row total, check what's going to happen. You see? So we need the row total. We're not going to put it off. Or should we? Are we going to put it off? I don't think so. We need to put it off. So we have the row total going out. Okay, so only leave the column total, right? So we can have the space we need, because if we put off the column total, we're not going to have the space we need here. I'm going to clean this up once more. Of course, you can come to grid, put on horizontal grid if you want to, and it's up to you to choose the color you want to use, right? Vertical grid, it's up to you also if you want to put on those horizontal and vertical grid. So one thing I'll do is come back to the visual, allow this to be Q. I have week. I'll just allow this to be W. I'll save this just in case. Then for month group, I'll just M. Then for day of week, I'll double click, just say this should be D, right? Okay, so besides this, what I'll do next is just adjust this, take it to the end. Now you have this expansion symbols here, so come to row headers and turn off this icon, right? I can just close this out like this, so I have something like this. The next thing is to come to, let me bring in a slicer, right? Let me bring in a slicer first. This is a slicer, so I'll bring the month here as a slicer, right? So we can be looking at 1 month at a time.